You've landed on episode 8 of our multi-episode, multi-interview series all about marketing a nonprofit. This is one of the final episodes of the series and the perfect segue to our next series, which will be all about building, launching, and marketing a YouTube channel. So why is this episode the perfect segue between series? Our next guest is Amber Melanie Smith, the longtime and very successful founder behind the nonprofit Activate Good. Activate Good is a thriving North Carolina nonprofit that helps other nonprofits find, organize, and mobilize volunteers. What an awesome idea. However, Amber's career has taken a somewhat dramatic twist as of late, thanks to her equally successful YouTube channel all about, you guessed it, building, launching, and marketing nonprofits. Link to Amber's show and nonprofit are in the show notes. Check it out. Guys, this episode rules. It's one of my favorites I've ever done. Amber really delivers the goods as we explore how to build a YouTube channel from absolutely nothing to something. And in Amber's case, that something is no joke. She dominates YouTube for queries related to nonprofits. If you want your YouTube channel to dominate, whether it's for a nonprofit or not, stay tuned. This episode is for you. We'll cover tactics for increased channel engagement, tools for YouTube channel growth, editing on a budget, YouTube authenticity, newsletters, monetization. We'll even discuss the importance or lack of importance in leveraging other social media channels to grow your YouTube. And just as a bonus, we talk at the end about how she grew her nonprofit in the first place. Key lessons she learned, lots of other valuable stuff. She's been doing this for 20 years. She knows what she's doing. Sound good? If so, please hit the like button now and consider spreading the word about our multi-episode nonprofit marketing series. If you know other nonprofit marketers, they're going to love it. Now, Amber Melanie Smith. And we're back with another episode of the Niche Marketing Podcast. As always, I'm your host, John Bertino from The Agency Guide. If you're struggling with your marketing agency, you're unsatisfied with the results, and many people are, please give us a look at theagencyguide.com. We represent about 300 different agencies across the US and Europe, and we can look to matchmake your specific needs with one of these vetted teams so that you can get better results from your marketing. Today, we're here with Amber Melanie Smith. Amber, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is a special episode for me because it's really in the epicenter of what I'm personally focused on right now. And that makes it that much more fun. We're going to talk a lot about YouTube, how you've built out what you've built, and then also talk a little bit about the nonprofit side of things, since we're really right in between two series, one on successful nonprofit marketing, another on building out a YouTube show, a channel, and everything that goes with it. So starting with the latter, start by perhaps reintroducing yourself and tell us about your YouTube channel and how you got started.
Yeah, so I'm Amber Melanie Smith. Fun fact, I didn't used to go by my middle name, but as I started to figure out my identity outside of the nonprofit that I started when I was in college, I wanted something to differentiate who I am outside of the organization. And so I added my middle name to be like a whole person experience. Anyway, that's really
it's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, Amber Melanie Smith. My mom knew what she wanted to hear.
Yeah, you're not just any Amber, you're not just any Smith, Amber Melanie Smith.
That's right. So anyway, I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I am a nonprofit founder. I started an organization before I finished college, and now I am a social entrepreneur, which if you don't know what that means, that'd be something to talk about for sure.
Well, what is it?
Okay, you can tell I'm excited. A social entrepreneur is someone who marries concepts of business and social impact nonprofits, brings them together to make an impact, usually in some kind of really innovative way that solves a problem in the world. So that's who I aspire to be. That's what I try to do through YouTube. And then I also am currently calling myself a social impact YouTuber because I think it's a distinguished way of explaining the way I want to do YouTube, the content that I put on YouTube. That was a really long explanation about who I am, but
we're here for long explanations. A short explanation would be insufficient. Okay, and so as you've already alluded to, as we've both alluded to, you've built out a pretty successful YouTube channel. But perhaps before we even get to that, I mean, what was the inspiration to go there? I'd imagine it had to do with your own nonprofit that you started. So tell us about that nonprofit, how that led you to YouTube.
A long time ago, I went on a cross-country road trip with my best friend. Her name's Heather. We volunteered in over 20 states and just kept going on this road trip, trying to do good deeds and acts of kindness until we basically ran out of money. And this was the road trip that inspired us to start Activate Good when we came back to Raleigh, North Carolina, because what we learned on the road trip was that people really wanted to get involved in their communities, but there were barriers to getting started. Either it was too complicated to figure out how to find the opportunities or to connect your personal skills to those opportunities. We wanted to make it easier for people to do good, to help their community. So we came back, started Activate Good. And over the last several years, I've grown that organization. We've got a great team, great board of directors. And as of this month, May, I'm actually transitioning out of my role as executive director of Activate Good. So throughout that period of time, I started getting a lot of questions from people who were curious. How do you start a nonprofit? How do you fundraise? Do you have tips for our strategy? And I was getting so many questions that I thought to myself, why don't I just start making some educational content about it? And then I can help this person who has a question, and hopefully lots of other people have a question too. I really didn't think that it was going to pick up any steam, but people surprised me with being actually interested in that topic. So that was really gratifying.
And specifically, just so everyone's clear, what exactly is Activate Good?
Yes, Activate Good is a nonprofit that mobilizes people to get out and volunteer in the local community, and that's in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we have 600 nonprofits that we partner with who have needs on the ground, and we match over 50,000 people to them, over the past several years to go out and help.
Maybe it's just because I'm an outsider to the space. I mean, I've worked with some clients in the space, but I'm not deep in it like you are. But it seems like such a clever but necessary thing, right? Like people have these various causes, these nonprofits, they're trying to generate activity, but you need human bodies to execute, human capital, some have referred to it. And I would imagine that can be a really daunting and challenging thing at times to get the human participation to make it all work. And so that's the crux of what Activate Good is. You aggregate different individuals to help implement and execute the work of the various nonprofits that are part of your network, correct?
That's right. And it's really a capacity builder for the organizations because, like you pointed out, volunteers, especially the right volunteers, can be challenging to find. But when managed effectively, volunteers can really increase your ROI as a nonprofit exponentially.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, well, we'll get back to your nonprofit, how you built it, and some of the things you did there in a little bit. Shifting back to the YouTube part. So you're like, okay, well, you're like, I'm getting a lot of the same questions. Maybe I should just start answering them on YouTube. Was part of it like, this will be a more efficient way to just send somebody a link so I don't have to answer it again? Or
part of it, yeah. But, I also realized I like teaching. I like explaining the concepts. And I thought back to when I was in college and how little I really understood about nonprofit social impact, social entrepreneurship. And I try to think of how I would talk to someone the way I would talk to my younger self. It's, do you know the curse of knowledge? Do you know what that is?
I've heard that, but please.
Yeah, the curse of knowledge is when you communicate to someone assuming they know what you know.
Right.
It's the curse of knowledge.
Yeah.
And so I think that's honestly, and we can get back to this too if you're interested, but that's a mistake I see a lot of other YouTubers and communicators in this space making, is talking to people as if they know what they know, all the jargon, all the way things work, etc. If I had had someone like me now back then, I could have accelerated my social impact, my fundraising, my marketing, etc., a lot faster. And that's what I am trying to do for other change makers now.
Okay, excellent. So you've built up quite the following. Frankly, that's how I found you, if memory serves me correct. I was doing research, preparing to go into a series of interviewing nonprofit marketers, and you kept coming up.
Cool.
with, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views per episode. And I was like, whoa, how is she doing this? And it's also, I found it particularly impressive because as much as this nonprofit space is really interesting and enticing and people want to do good, I mean, it's not like the sexiest thing. It's not food or music.
It's not video games.
Yeah, it's not video games, right? So I was like, wow, this is quite impressive. So, I mean, big question, but like, how did you start to gain significant traction where you were getting thousands of views, if not tens of thousands per episode?
Yeah. And I want to be clear. You kind of alluded to this, but this is a niche channel, right? I mean, I hope one day, but probably I'm not going to get to 10 million subscribers. Right. It's a niche. And so first understanding and looking at success and growth in that context, right? So for the channel size that I have, some of the videos are performing really well, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was a lot of experimentation in the beginning. If you look at some of my earlier videos, you see me playing around with topics like, if you're a Myers-Briggs ENFJ, how should you change the world? Like just figuring out what's good for people and entertaining for people, and also what the algorithm's going to pick up on. And a lot of experimenting, a lot of looking at the analytics and insights, and then a lot of just listening to and observing what people are asking me in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me interject right there.
Yeah.
Would you say that looking at the comments was one of, if not the main thing you looked at to guide what your next topic would be?
It was a big influence, especially if I saw many people asking the same types of questions.
Yeah.
I have a couple videos where I'm just like answering your questions about board governance. Here are all of the top questions I've gotten from you, and here are the answers.
And I'm inclined to ask, how did you even get to the point of getting comments, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would really like more comments. Everyone out there listening, please comment on this video. Now's your chance. We need comments. But like, I'm not even there yet. We've got 1,000+ subs, and we're doing well with things, but nobody's really commenting.
You're at 1,000+. That's awesome. That's really
almost
good growth.
2,000.
Good job. There
Yeah,
you go.
thanks.
I feel like that's the hardest part, right? And then you start to pick up steam. That's what I've heard.
Tell me.
Yeah. So comments, I would say what you just did is something that ask for comments. Let people know you want comments, and also ask people questions that they can answer in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your biggest challenges about grant writing or so forth? Leave in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And then I also make a point to answer as many of the comments, or at least respond in some way, even if it's just a smiley face.
Yeah.
Just like acknowledge the presence of the person who's watching.
Yeah.
I'm sure I miss some, but I do my best to really engage back with them and create that connection.
Were you always thoughtful enough to ask or solicit for the comment, or did that something that took a while to learn?
I think I started early, but it's not because I just intuitively, magically knew to do that.
Yeah.
I was watching other people's videos on how to be successful on YouTube to try to learn what they knew.
All right. And so back to ideation, comments were big. How else did you decide that, hey, maybe Myers-Briggs, ENFJ, JF, maybe that's not the right place to be? What else did you do then, or perhaps you're doing now to ideate what you should put out next?
It's a couple of things. One is after 10 to 20 videos or so, you can start to see which ones are picking up steam in your insights, right?
Huh?
And so I was just taking a look at what's working, what are people really responding well to, and how big of a role is SEO playing in that, right? If you have a keyword search tool or planning tool of some kind, you can kind of get a sense for what people are looking for on YouTube, on Google, that they might not be finding. So key phrases like how to start a nonprofit with no money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Apparently a top searched phrase.
Yeah.
I made a video with that exact title, and now it's doing really well.
Yeah. What tools do you like to use for keyword research?
I'm currently using TubeBuddy, but I've also used just Google Keyword Planner. Is that something you've used, TubeBuddy?
Yes. I mean, SEO happens to be my background. Yeah. So I've used
I'm sure you know way more about it than me.
I could go on and on. Shout out SEMrush. We'll have a link down below.
That's right. Come on, sponsors, get into this.
But I really do endorse them, recommend them, have for years. And now that I've given them a plug, I don't want to give anybody else a plug.
Oh.
But
sure, fair enough.
But TubeBuddy for sure. And, I guess Moz has always been there, and I could go on and on and on and on. So, but it's actually, I want to push back, for lack of better phrasing. Please. We chatted with / consulted with another YouTuber, actually Finn McKenty. He's the man. Which I should connect you guys.
Okay.
And his take was like, don't rely on SEO was actually his take. He was like, he didn't say never, but he's like, you're going to get exponentially more traffic through really just viewership metrics, and the way that if your content's good, you'll get more visibility in the sidebar, the homepage. He's like, and SEO won't be a main driver for you. Now, it sounds as though you're saying that you feel as though keyword research was significant in your success. Is that true?
At this stage. Now, how big is his channel?
He's in music, so millions.
Yeah. So, also with music, I think it's just you are attracted to the person because you like what they put on. Like, it's more about that than, like, I'm not sure. Is it performance-based or?
He analyzes bands and songs and goes in depth and has lots of controversial opinions.
Oh, okay.
He's very
fun.
fun.
To check him out. So I view myself still at somewhat the beginning of my YouTube journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this phase, understanding SEO has served me well, because I think it helped me gain traction in the beginning when I wouldn't have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I am interested in pushing the envelope a little bit and experimenting and trying new things. I just posted a video about how I'm leaving the nonprofit that I started.
Yes.
And that wasn't really SEO focused,
right.
But it so far is my top performing video in the period of time since it was posted.
Yeah, I saw that. Lots of engagement underneath too. And I wasn't sure if that was a byproduct of the fact that it is a significant time in your life, and therefore you're getting lots of comments, or if you always get that many comments.
It varies by video, but I think what I wanted to experiment with this video was just, does my audience want to hear more about me as a human? Or am I more just the educational talking head? Like, who does the audience need me to be right now for them? And understanding that a little better so that I can sort of strategize my next phase of my YouTube journey, so to speak.
Okay. So many questions for you. Just staying on the SEO thing for a moment. How often do you change headlines, titles that you may have written for a video? Is it standard practice for you to change it a few times to test what performs, or often are you just doing the keyword research, creating a title, and letting it ride?
The latter. And part of that,
interesting.
It doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing it right, by the way.
Sure. You're doing something right, Amber Melanie Smith.
Well, part of that is YouTube has been something I've done on the side for the past couple of years and maintained as I had my full-time job. So doing extras like that, going back and, experimenting with new thumbnails or new titles, etc., just hasn't been something I've had the capacity to put my time into. But going forward, I might experiment a little bit more with that.
I'm sure you will. I think that's actually a really interesting insight. I'm coming at things from the opposite side.
Right.
I'm a marketer by trade. All of my research is like, what are the marketing best practices? We're already testing different headlines, testing different thumbnails, but it's kind of like you wonder how much you're shooting yourself in the foot by not just letting things rise, or put another way, do we have adequate sample size on the way that video performed with that headline, so on and so forth. Along the same lines, but slight pivot, engagement, right? Broad topic, big question, obviously key, but specifically through the lens of trying to structure or create the videos in such a way that people stay on them and watch them. Because again, Finn McKenty had mentioned, and many other YouTubers, that the key to this game, if you were to identify one thing, is how long people engage with the video. This will increase your results in the algorithm. Do you put much thought into little tweaks to keep people engaged, or are you just doing something right naturally and that's just happening?
I've tried to structure my videos with some intention, but again, it's one of those things I feel like I'd like to experiment more with when I have more capacity going forward. But right now, my basic formula is say what you're going to say it, and reflect on what you just said. And I know I'm not the first person. I can't remember. Some famous person said, that's what you should do in a speech.
So
say what you're going to say. Yeah, like in this video, here's what you're going to hear. And now I'm going to tell you the thing. And hey, did you like what you just heard? Let me know in the comments.
Well,
and it's kind of boring, actually, now that I say it out loud. But
so it's like the opposite of burying the lead. It's like start with the lead, say the thing. These little nuances really matter.
Yeah.
So you make a concerted effort to do an intro of sorts to tell people where this is going.
Yes, absolutely. And not only that, but I try to infuse my keywords into the verbal component of what I say in the first couple of sentences. I don't know if this is a lie or not, but I'm told that the algorithm, the mysterious algorithm,
the
algorithm, I'm told that they like that. It.
You know,
it or they.
Actually, there's several layers to quote unquote the algorithm. It's actually algorithms.
I picture them like a crime syndicate, like shadowy silhouettes,
right?
Like a whole group of people.
Yeah, this mysterious
them.
Okay, interesting. All right, so you've made that effort to lead out. How long did it take for you to start doing that, or were you doing that right out of the gate?
10 to 20 videos in, probably.
Yeah, how many videos are you in now?
210-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect segue.
Okay.
Length.
Mm-hmm.
Do you tend to try to keep the videos to a specific length, or do you try to mix up different formats of length?
I think at the beginning, no, I think it's always been the same. 10 to 20 minutes is my sweet spot.
Yeah.
Couple go over, couple are under, but most are in that sweet spot. And I've just found that is the length that I'm comfortable speaking at. It's the length I have energy for. And it's a good length to cover enough of a topic for people to feel like they got value without overwhelming them with too much.
Yeah. So if I heard you correctly, or if I could repeat that back, the motivation there is that this is what felt the most comfortable for you.
I think so.
But you also surmise that it's probably also the right length of people's attention spans. I'm putting words in your mouth, but what most people want when it comes to subject matter such as nonprofits, 10 to 20 minutes is the right formula.
Yes. And as I'm looking at other channels in adjacent niches, like business and stuff like that, their videos are all in the same range. So, they're modeling that for me as well.
Yeah. And so how about short form? Are you playing with that at all?
I have done shorts, if that's what you're referring to.
Yes. So it doesn't sound like you're creating content that's a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes by design, but rather you're editing out the shorts from your longer form.
I have done that a couple times. I have also done just some one-off shorts just with my phone on like just answering quick questions, stuff like that. I'm still not sold on if those are having a good ROI for me. I'm taking a look at that.
The way I've been thinking about that, again, kind of coming at it as a career marketer, is that I'm starting to now think of the length of the video. The shorter the length of the video, you can think of it as serving higher up in the funnel. Are you familiar with this funnel terminology?
Yeah.
Right. So as people are, still higher up in the funnel, they're less problem aware. They're just starting to realize they have a problem they want to solve. Give them small bite-sized nuggets because they're unlikely to invest 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half hour, an hour, if they're not even sure if they have a problem they want to solve yet. So it's like the shorter the content, the more targeted it is to higher up in the funnel. And conversely, the lower down in the funnel, the more they're like, I definitely have a problem I want to solve. I'm weighing my options. I'm trying to get educated. What should I do? That's where the longer form really comes in. And I think you could, with having said all that, you could definitely say that mid-funnel, right, 5 minutes, 10 minutes is probably really good. Or I guess it depends on how complicated the subject is. But that's the way we've been looking at it. And I definitely think that's the right approach. So short form, no doubt, a great way to start to pull people in the first place. So again, segue off of that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, again, you've built up quite the following. Did you put much effort into leveraging social media aside from YouTube to do that? Or did you basically just hit YouTube?
A little bit. So a couple of posts here and there on Facebook and LinkedIn, largely YouTube though. So in the opposite vein, I've built a community. Actually, it's on Facebook right now. I built a community of subscribers who have come and want to connect with each other and connect with me further. So it's also worked that other way too. That's not what you asked, I know. But,
No, absolutely relevant. What you're doing on Facebook and how that's helped. What came first though, the chicken or the egg? So you leveraged YouTube to drive people to Facebook?
Yeah, and my newsletter.
And your newsletter.
The Facebook and the newsletter are connected. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on social, or has that been most of it?
It hasn't been a lot on social. It's largely been, I think, YouTube and the algorithm picking it up and, and just making sure that I'm engaging with people authentically if I can, sharing my many mistakes, doing all the things that I've tried to do.
Yes. I find that fascinating, believe it or not. It's one of the reasons I love doing what we're doing with the Niche Marketing Podcast, and especially talking to folks that don't do marketing for a living, but have had great success, to hear that you haven't been like, I've been on every social platform, Gary V, that's my homie. I love him. He's great. He's brilliant. But, in general, he's like on most platforms. Now he's diversifying his content. He doesn't just put the same thing everywhere. But in a lot of ways, not because you're not a Gary fan, but you've done the opposite thing. You've been super focused on just YouTube, if I heard you correctly. And then slowly but surely, you kind of open that up to a Facebook community, but you're not doing Instagram shorts, or if so, very few.
Nah.
You're not on TikTok.
No.
Yeah, even though there's a rabid social impact oriented base there.
Okay.
Haven't done it yet, right?
Yeah.
It's just YouTube. Fascinating. And then the newsletter, how has that served you, and how robust has that initiative gotten?
Newsletter's great for increasing that personalized connection. And also if someone would like to work with me in another way. So I've had consulting partners and projects come through YouTube, then the newsletter, then engagement with me. I have online courses about fundraising and how to start a nonprofit. And the newsletter is a great tool to help me showcase those as well. So yeah.
How have you managed to get subscribers to that newsletter?
So I invite people in the videos to subscribe to the newsletter. Also, when you join my Facebook group, I ask you if you'd like to join the newsletter. And so I collect, maybe I'd say 80 to 85% of the people who join my Facebook group are opting into the newsletter as well.
Wow, quite the conversion rate.
Yeah. And I think if someone has the mentality that they want to connect further, they want to join the Facebook group, they're like, why not? I'll also join the newsletter. I can always unsubscribe. And I say that too. You can always unsubscribe if it's not bringing you value. But to be fair, I haven't been as consistent as I would like to be with my newsletter. And that's definitely going to change now that I have more time and capacity. But making sure that I'm listening to what they're asking for, that I'm providing that value in the newsletter, that is helping them engage further that way.
Yeah, I'm going to posit that because your focus from day one has just been value, is that a safe assumption?
Yeah.
And very unsalesy, you've developed a true following of people that really appreciate you and the value you deliver. So when they get to the Facebook group and you ask them to opt in, you're getting a 80 plus opt-in rate to the newsletter. It's because your focus has been on value all along, and it sounds like almost nothing else. So I think that's probably the key to your success there.
It's just like fundraising in nonprofits, right?
Yeah.
It requires trust. Hopefully you like the person who's part of the organization that you're donating to.
Yep.
It's all about that personal connection. I think it works the same way here too.
Okay. We'll be getting to your nonprofit journey here in just a moment. A few other things on your approach to format and, again, what has or hasn't served you well. So from what I've seen of your videos, they're mostly what we would refer to as talking head. You and a camera on a subject. Today's episode is brought to you by The Agency Guide. Are you frustrated with an underperforming marketing agency? Who isn't? Are you unsure about what marketing channels to invest in and who to invest with? Maybe you're just fed up with the overpromising and under-delivering of marketing agencies. Fear not. You need to contact The Agency Guide. The Agency Guide, or TAG, represents a vetted pool of 200 plus vetted marketing agencies and consultants, and they will matchmake your brand's specific needs with these trusted marketing professionals for free. That's right, for free. You don't need an expensive agency search firm. You need The Agency Guide. For over 10 years, TAG's experienced marketing consultants have been providing pro bono consulting and matching brands with vetted agencies based on needs, budget, timeline, location, even your personality. They're marketing professionals. They're agency matchmakers. They're The Agency Guide. To learn more, visit www.theagencyguide.com today. Have you explored more interview style content, webinar style content? Is that part of your content mix that I just haven't seen? Or have you been very intentionally focused on the talking head format, and why?
I've done a couple of interview format ones, and those perform in varying levels of goodness.
Yeah.
I think it depends on, again, the topic.
Yeah.
I'm interested in exploring more formats, and even a little like splash documentary style, or, going around the country, even like you, and interviewing people who are making a difference and figuring out all their secrets to pass on to all the other change makers that I talk to. I'm interested in doing stuff like that. I just haven't yet. And I think that's largely not due to a lack of interest, but again, just capacity, doing full-time nonprofit and YouTube on the side. And now that's basically going to switch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a big part of it's just been efficiency.
Yeah.
Okay. And sticking on the thread of efficiency, I think a lot of startup YouTubers, or even companies that are very much doing this as a side project, they want to be as efficient and cost effective as possible. Getting in the weeds a bit here, I'm curious your approach to editing. Like, are you doing it yourself, or where did you start with that? And how have you, since it looks like you're cranking out a fair amount of content. You said a couple hundred videos.
Over a couple of years.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah.
It's quite a few. What's been your approach to systemizing and standardizing editing?
So let me just backtrack a little bit. I'll
Please.
go through the whole process. So production, I try to sit down and take one day to write 4 or 5 scripts or outlines at a time. And then I take one other day to film 3 to 5 videos in one day. So batching my time.
Change outfits?
Sometimes, yeah. I will actually occasionally do that. Or I'll wear like 2 outfits, but like I'll put the videos in a different order so it looks like I'm doing different outfits.
Yeah.
So there's that. I did edit my videos in the very beginning, but
Using what tool?
oh my gosh, I can Animoto or some like free or like $15 thing.
Newbie
Yeah,
tool.
newbie. I knew the very basics. I know you can do some of that with Canva now too.
Right.
But to be totally honest, I am now outsourcing my editing.
Nothing wrong with that.
And my videographer is way better than me at that stuff. So, and I'm happily outsourcing it.
Again, very much in the weeds here, but I mean, hey, we're probably talking to a bunch of aspiring YouTubers trying to understand what you did that worked. I would imagine you have like standard stocks on the editing process that maybe you've maintained and updated over time.
Yeah. So me and my videographer agreed that I want to incorporate these colors in every video, and this is my font, and this is the general style, and I want to share my website here, so put the URL there when I say it. And so we have templatized. I don't know if that's the right word, because I don't want everything to just be
Standards.
Yeah, standards, yes, but without making everything so identical that it's boring, hopefully. And if it is, I hope someone will tell me, because I would like to improve upon that and change it up.
Yeah. And are you doing like periodic production meetings to tweak things?
Sure. Okay, let me just say, my videographer is my boyfriend. So yes, we have production meetings. But we have such a rhythm at this point that I can really just send an email. And since we've been doing this for a while, he knows what I want.
Okay. So you're in a unique situation.
I know not everyone
there.
has an in-house videographer.
Yeah, that's true. Like literally
video editor.
in-house.
Yeah, literally.
We're getting into the habit of having at least monthly production meetings to go back to those standards that we've established and be like, okay, this is working. Let's try this. Let's tweak this. Let's test that. But
I want to clarify, since this is for people who might just be starting out, you don't have to have an in-house video editor. If you can like work the internet in basic ways, you can probably figure out some basic editing yourself. And there are lots of great tools out there that are affordable that would allow you to do that. So I don't want to discourage anyone to be like, you have to have an in-house video editor to make all this work, because that's definitely not the case.
Agree. The other side of it is, boy, trying to do all the editing yourself might be really slowing you down. Trying to find some type of outsource resource to help you do it efficiently might be exactly what the doctor ordered, so to speak. Just a few more things in the weeds before we broaden the lens a little bit. I'm curious about cannibalization of content. Is this something that you think about at all? Like, hey, I did a video on X. Now keyword research is suggesting something similar. I don't want to cannibalize my other video, or when should you or dismiss an old video and do a better one? I just talk through that a little bit.
And I've thought about this a little bit, but my general philosophy here is just to add a new take. You have to remember that someone coming to your channel probably has only seen a couple of your videos, if that. They find you through a single video, and they might not even know that you have a similar video from 3 years before that. Odds are against it. It's very rare that someone is watching my entire library of videos and they're really scrutinizing that. So I think that's a little bit of the spotlight effect when you have that concern, as you're worrying that things might be happening that might not be happening. Just to be respectful to my audience and make sure that I'm always delivering that value, I do try to give a fresh take on it. Sometimes I'll do an update video. Like, I did this a couple years ago, this topic, but you know what? Some things in the world have changed. Here's how I approach the same topic in 2024, for example.
And with the title, do you just kind of, for lack of better phrasing, go right after your old video, put the same darn term in the title, and almost want the new fresh video to outrank the old one? Or do you try to stay away from cannibalizing the same keyword target?
I have used similar titles, but then I say update for 2024 or something like that, and then a thumbnail that makes it very clear it's an updated take on that. My understanding and observation is that over time, your top performing videos from a couple of years ago, they're just naturally going to have a reduction in viewership. It's just natural. So I don't get too worried about cannibalizing older videos because of that.
And then shifting gears a little bit, rounding out our exploration of your YouTube journey, I want to read you a quote.
Okay.
So this is from one of who I believe to be one of the great thinkers of our time, a gentleman who's a little bit under the radar named Naval Ravikant. Have you heard of him by any chance?
I'm not sure. Tell me more.
He was one of the founders of, I want to say Thumbtack, or maybe Angie's List.
Okay.
No, Angel's List. Yeah, Angel's List, which is where I think a platform for getting like a marketplace for funding, I believe. Okay. But anyway, he's a very successful entrepreneur, brilliant speaker, thinker. And he has some really interesting commentary around authenticity and also the exponential reach of media, which we're doing, leveraging media, using media for leverage, so exponential gain and exposure. But I want to read you his quote on how to escape competition through authenticity. In fact, that's the thing, is that you can escape competition through authenticity, or being authentic. And I think that's a really novel idea. And he says that if you combine what you love to do and what you do, that is the key to escaping competition through authenticity. If you are fundamentally building and marketing something that is just an extension of who you are, no one else can compete with that. It's impossible. So, having heard that for the first time, what's your thought on that?
I like it. And I think it's true. There are always going to be other nonprofit channels, business channels, etc. But no one knows my story. I can share my personal experiences, my mistakes, my failures, things I've learned, and I can make it clear this is just my experience. And literally no one else in the whole world can have the exact experience that I can have. And some people are going to connect to it and some people aren't. And that's okay. The people who do are my people.
And that's brilliantly stated. And I really think that ends up being the key to this whole thing that we're doing. There will be and are many, many, many other marketers putting out content about marketing, but nobody can give the spin, the take that I can, because I am me. And there's some intrinsic value in that that's really hard to put your finger on. And I think at the end of the day, people are opting into Amber's take on building a nonprofit, or John's take on marketing, or John's take on interviewing marketers. And that's really what they're signing up for. So
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
And can I ask you a question?
Please.
Can I turn the tables?
Sure.
Okay. Why marketing? How did you get into this?
Oh boy. I've been in marketing my entire career, 20 years almost at this point. And for 10 years, I've been matchmaking brands with marketing agencies. But there's just this endless morass of content out there. It's really hard to break through the noise. And so I decided to structure the channel around what not only interested me in the most authentic way possible, but I thought was a little different. And that would be aggregating a collection of marketers with specific experience on a specific thing and going deep, sometimes into the nooks and crannies of it, to collectively get this great base of information on certain subjects. That keeps me genuinely interested, which gets back to the point, perhaps why you asked it.
Yeah.
It allows me to be my most authentic self because I'm genuinely interested in it, while I think also providing value to others.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it keeps it fun. It keeps it interesting, allows me to ask more interesting questions.
There you go.
Now let's talk a little bit more about the nonprofit space specifically and what you've learned on your journey. Now, how Activate Good, we talked about what that was earlier. How old did you say Activate Good was?
Turned 19 this year.
Whoa, 19 years.
Yeah.
Oh, to be honest, I had no idea you were doing it for that long.
Yep.
Whoa. Okay. I probably would have prepared better questions if I realized that.
And a lot of those years are just figuring things out, like I said,
Great. Okay. So let me ask this question. How important was YouTube for Activate Good? And if it wasn't all that important, tell us that.
I think for Activate Good specifically, that is not a platform we're focusing heavily on. And the reasons are just how YouTube works, and the types of audience we would be reaching is not the audience we need for our specific mission. YouTube is great if a nonprofit wants to have national or global reach, possibly. In my experience, it's not necessarily the platform for hyper-localized content. So for that, because we're a local organization, we're not a national organization. We need to reach our people here in Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and all the little towns in between. So Facebook, we haven't really done much on Twitter, now X, recently. Right. Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn have been our top platforms for Activate Good. And LinkedIn is having a moment right now, and we're kind of investing more in that too.
Okay, cool. Do you mind unpacking your strategy on LinkedIn a bit for us?
We're figuring that out. But we've noticed we've gotten a lot of traction with socially responsible companies. And LinkedIn is, of course, where all the business professionals go. And that's a great audience for us, because if our mission is to mobilize people to volunteer, companies who employ hundreds or thousands of people who also care about the community, that's a great target audience for us, because they can bring us tons of volunteers, right? So LinkedIn's been great. We've been really increasing our efforts to be seen as a thought leader in the social responsibility space on LinkedIn. So we've started playing with a LinkedIn newsletter that talks about how to effectively launch an employee volunteer program, things like that, things that matter to that population.
Now, LinkedIn, I heard you say, is somewhat of a newer focal point for you guys. It sounds like Facebook is maybe where you concentrated most of your social media efforts for.
In the beginning, yeah.
Okay. Talk us through social media in general, from Facebook, the role it played, what you did there, and where you are with social media. Like, bring us up to current day.
So I think when we were first getting started out, Facebook was the platform, right? So we put a lot of energy into that, sharing a lot of photos, didn't experiment as much as I would have liked to with live streaming. So that's a regret that I have.
What about the paid side? Just organic mostly?
Just organic. Yeah. We've tried a couple paid ads, and usually those worked when we had a very targeted event, something very specific that was coming up. There was a sense of urgency. but not with our general mission. And for us on Facebook, if I had to name a top conversion, it would be someone signed up to volunteer because they saw us on Facebook, right? So we would promote volunteer opportunities, provide the links to sign up. I would see some good traction there. And people love to share those types of things, right? Because even if they can't volunteer, they can share it with people in their networks, and maybe someone in their networks can volunteer. And then the person who shared it gets to feel like they did the good deed also,
Sure,
which
they
is great for
contributed.
us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of our approach with Facebook. Instagram, a lot of storytelling, highlighting volunteers that we work with, their stories. This is one of my favorite things that happened at a volunteer project. We had 2 long-term volunteers. They got engaged at one of our volunteer projects.
Oh, cool.
So little stories like that really humanize our mission.
Yeah.
Great for Facebook. I'm sorry, Instagram. Great for Instagram.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, LinkedIn is all about targeting the business community because that's where they are.
Any TikTok?
We've only recently been playing with TikTok, and that's just a capacity issue, right?
Yeah.
We're still smallish team.
Yeah, sure. One of the key insights that's come from not just one, but more than one of the interviews we've done with nonprofit marketing experts thus far has been the diversification of the types of plot lines or storylines that you put into your social and also your email, right? And kind of trying to be somewhat reserved on making an ask.
Mm-hmm.
So putting you on the spot, didn't prepare you for a lot of what we've talked about today. But could you talk through how you think about providing value in just making the content interesting for Activate Good so that you can not just constantly be asking?
It's a fine line for us because we are asking people to sign up to volunteer. We also occasionally ask them to donate to Activate Good to support our work. But in addition to us asking other people to volunteer, that's also why they're coming to us, because they're looking for volunteer opportunities. So you have to ask yourself, is that an ask? Or are you meeting a need that they came to you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know the answer. I guess it depends on the person, right? But our hope is that we're providing value by sharing the volunteer opportunities that we hope that they'll then sign up for.
And there's value there, no doubt. Have you done a lot of success story content or testimonial content or things like that?
We have. And it has had moderate success, but if you look at like our Facebook, our Instagram posts, the ones that get the best engagement seem to be more of the just like the natural, like behind the scenes, like, hey, Amber went to the warehouse where we keep all our supplies and got some shovels, and here's, why having a warehouse is so important for nonprofit. Obviously I'm making that up, but stuff that's more giving people a behind the scenes look at how things work has been weirdly engaging for people.
Behind the scenes. Yeah. That's interesting. Behind the scenes. Okay. Let's talk storytelling. Okay. So I mentioned in part 1 of this interview about my background in SEO, and I tend to look at everything through an initial lens of keyword research or topic modeling. And when running the topic model associated with nonprofit marketing, storytelling is at the top of the list as one of the most important areas to cover. So I'm curious, in your multiple roles as a YouTuber, as an entrepreneur, and as a nonprofit founder, how do you think about storytelling?
I have to be honest, in the very beginning, I didn't get it. I was like, storytelling? No, data. People want to know the percent of people who do this or that. Obviously, I was very wrong, but I'm someone who thought that storytelling was this sort of like mysterious, mystical force that why would it have the influence that it clearly does have on humans? I didn't get it. My friend Heather, actually, with whom I went on the cross-country road trip that started Activate Good. Now, she actually is a journalist now. So she was all in on the storytelling. She taught me some things. And storytelling now, I see, helps people see the connection between what I'm talking about and themselves in a way that just data can't, right? It's the human side. And so with Activate Good, Obviously, once I caught on to the power of storytelling, we started doing a bit more of that. Things like someone just got proposed to at one of our volunteer projects. Like, that's a cool story. And also, it shows you how human connection occurs when you volunteer. So important, rounding out the theme there. Those stories, the behind the scenes, I think, has that element too. And that's why those posts might be more engaging. There's that storytelling. It's not asking for something. It's not sign up. It's not do this, not give us money. It's, we're just like you. We have to organize our warehouse or whatever the post might be about. On YouTube, I try to bring in stories, but it's my stories and other people's stories, because I'm not the only person doing this work, obviously. And sometimes I'm not the person who's going to be the most relatable to my audience, but I can give a case study or an example of someone else who did a thing, and it might connect to someone.
Yeah. One of our previous guests in the nonprofit marketing series, Alex Morse, he's a brilliant, just marketer all around, founder of an agency called Side C. He talked about how we assume that those who follow our nonprofit understand the impact that the nonprofit is having, or understand what it's like on the ground for those that are being served. He said, but that's the improper assumption to make.
Right.
As the nonprofit founder, I don't believe he's one, but he's an agency. As the one responsible for telling the story, we need people to really feel and connect with those that are being served, understand the work that is being done. And the most powerful way to do that is through the story. That was his take on it. What do you make of that?
I like that. And he's absolutely right. Nonprofits barely know the impact we're making half the time because, well, lots of reasons. That would be a whole nother podcast episode. You have to understand that nonprofit social impact organizations are different from businesses in the sense that our end outcome isn't profit, it's social change, right? And people who come to you, who volunteer, who donate, who support, who advocate for your cause, they're not coming to you because they are looking to be sold something. You're selling them purpose. You're selling them connection. You're selling them meaning. That's what they're looking for when they connect to your cause. The nonprofit to them is a vehicle to achieve meaning and connection, and to feel like you have agency in a world where a lot of the time you can feel like you're completely out of control of anything in your life, right? So that's why a donor or volunteer, that might be their first subconscious reasoning for getting involved. So if you don't reinforce that constantly by showing them the impacts, then you will lose them. And a lot of the research around giving and volunteering even shows that that's the most important thing they're looking for at the end of their volunteer time after their donation is they want to know that it made a difference. It's nice to get a thank you note, but what they really want to know is, did it matter? Otherwise, why did I do it?
Brilliant. Well stated. I think we'd be remiss with some of the time we have remaining, not to just zoom out and talk in general about, what you've learned after 19 years of running a nonprofit. What are some key lessons or takeaways that you would bestow upon other individuals starting a nonprofit or at the early stages? Give us some key lessons and takeaways.
So many to count. The first is, you can't do it all, even if you think you can, even if you have lots of talents and skills, because time is your most important asset. And if you know what you're really good at, and you can really invest most of your time on that and figure out other people who can do the other parts of the organization who might be really good at those other parts, you're going to make an impact a lot faster than if you're trying to do it all by yourself.
So delegate, outsource.
Delegate, but also know yourself really well. I guess that could be a separate lesson, right? Really take the time to understand your work style, your work preferences, your top skills. Make a list. What are the things that you really enjoy doing that you could just spend hours doing? You get into a flow doing it. What's that compared to what is just a drudgery for you? Like, what do you hate doing? You would gladly give it to someone else if they would just take care of it. For me, it's accounting. I really hate accounting, even though, I enjoy a good spreadsheet here and there. But yeah, I never want to do accounting again if I can avoid it. And I would rather pay money to have someone else do it because my time is valuable, right? So that was an important and hard lesson to learn. Because when you're a nonprofit, it's hard to find the help sometimes.
Yeah, we need to lean into our strengths and focus our efforts there, no doubt about it. What would you say what are some of the key things you did along the 19-year journey that attributed to some of the most success or growth that Activate Good achieved?
It's always about listening to your community. And having mechanisms that allow you to collect feedback from your community on a regular basis, just like marketing. It's very similar, right?
Yes, you beat me to it. I was going to say the same.
Yeah. With nonprofits, your end outcome is social change. In order to create social change, you have to know what you need to change. And you have to hear it from the people who need the change. You can't just make assumptions about it yourself based on what you think needs to be changed, because very often you're wrong when you do that. Do you have time for a quick story?
Yes.
Okay. I love the story of a young woman from Florida. Her name is Brianna Daniels. She started a nonprofit called Street Team Movement. And her story goes that she was walking home from work one day and noticed that there were an increasing amount of people experiencing homelessness on the streets as she was going. And she really wanted to do something about it. And she thought to herself, I'd like to start a food pantry to help these people. But something in her told her to stop and to get curious instead. So instead of start a food pantry based on her assumption of what these people needed, she spent a month living on the street with these people, just listening to what they needed, their experiences, their challenges. And what she heard was actually they didn't need a food pantry. They needed a laundromat. They needed a place to clean their clothes. So she started a laundromat. And it's that Street Team Movement, very successful. And you have to have that curiosity and that humility and mechanism to collect feedback if you're going to make progress that's meaningful.
It's a great story. It's a great tip. And actually, it brings our conversation full circle, as you had discussed earlier in part 1 about on YouTube, one of the keys to your success, it sounded like, is listening to feedback, questions, what people are asking for, and filling that need. It's such a obvious point, but mission critical on both sides of your business. And that's probably the perfect place to end our discussion for today. Other than, Amber, if people want to learn more about you or follow you, what's the best way to do that?
Of course. I don't know which camera I'm looking at. Of course. Connect on YouTube, Amber Melanie Smith. I think if you type that in, you should find me. I don't think there are any other Amber Melanie Smiths out there. That's also my website, ambermelaниesmith.com, where I share more about YouTube and also the speaking engagements that I do.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your content today. Congratulations on the success of Activate Good, and good luck to you in, the next chapter of your journey as you transition into new endeavors. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.